Approximately 3,000 people inhabited the Village of Freedom. The residents' primary support came from logging and lumber. The main street supported an independent grocery store that also housed a pharmacy, a movie theater, 2 bars, and a hardware store, a pizzeria, a Chinese takeout, and a thrift shop. Just around the corner on a small side street was Mildred's Cafe. On the outskirts of town, near the entrance of the highway, was a gas station that had a McDonald's and a Dunkin' Donuts inside the store cavity. Feeling lonely and out of place after unpacking my meager belongings that came nowhere near completing the furnishing of my newly purchased 3,000 square foot Victorian-style home, I decided to step out for lunch. I tended to eat light in the midday, so all I wanted was a bowl of soup and a cup of herbal tea. The only place in town to get that was Mildred's Cafe. Little did I realize when I eagerly made my way into the cozy diner that Mildred's cooking was famed within the area. The tiny establishment offered breakfast and lunch, but was closed for dinner. If residents wanted something to supper on other than what Freedom had to offer, they had to drive 20 miles east to the small city of Wilkes-Barre. There was exactly 1 seat left vacant in the crowded cafe when I entered. It was at the counter. Under normal circumstances, I preferred to sit at a table or booth. Sitting at the counter made me feel exposed and conspicuous. Since I had no other choice if I wanted that bowl of soup, which my stomach was now growling for, I slid into the stool and peered at the chalkboard where the choices for the soup of the day were neatly written. "The broccoli cheese is my favorite," said a friendly voice coming from the woman seated to my left. "I'd get that if I were you. It's what I ordered." The stocky, plain-looking woman with short-chopped, sandy blonde hair, no makeup, and clothes that were a typical lumberjack style who was making a suggestion for the soup du jour was Kenzie McGregor. Being the only veterinarian for miles, she was very accustomed to carrying on small talk with people who she barely knew, but who knew her, or at least knew of her, whenever she stepped out. I found the woman who was my senior by only a few years both entertaining and likable, and fell into an easy conversation with her. By the time we'd finished our lunch, we became fast friends. Wrestling with animals both big and small provided a semblance of strength in Kenzie that both surprised and impressed me. It was that strength behind the knocking on my door that made it vibrate like someone was trying to beat it down. "Lisa, are you home?" Kenzie bellowed from the opposite side of the thick barrier. "I only have a few minutes. Open up if you're home, will you?" Forcing my body to move, I stepped away from the door and swung it open. "I have exactly 15 minutes before I have to get back to the office," Kenzie barked as she marched past me toward the kitchen. "Is there coffee made?" she asked over her shoulder without looking back. "In the pot, but it's not fresh," I called after her. I closed the door and made my way to the kitchen in a far less rushed fashion. When I reached it, I found my friend filling a mug with the hours-old brew.